Vivica Fox was hot in the blogs this week for comments she made when asked, how does she feel about Taraji speaking out about the various things she's been speaking out on, whether it was the pay gap, whether it was the having to fight for like their own trailers and food, and having to call on Oprah to like fix things on the set of The Color Purple, etc. TMZ asked Vivica what she thought, and Vivica said, to each his own. I am very happy, very blessed, to each their own. I didn't have that experience. So, she said, but to get your piece out is important. I totally understand that. And I love my girls for looking out for each other, but I'm good, is what she said.
Yeah.
What you think?
This is so disturbing on so many levels for me, because it is an example of how it is with us as a culture, as a race, just us as a people, right? How we don't stick together. And I think it was Martin Luther King Jr. who said it best, right? And injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, right? So what that is if just because it's not, that's the problem when we talk about, oh, that's their problem, that's their issue, that's not mine, right? You are a part of you're a Black woman, a Black actress. You can never get too comfortable and think that you've arrived, like, and you've made it, and that's not going to affect you, because it is. You're still a Black
one project
woman
away from being treated the same way.
Exactly.
At the end of the day.
So don't think that won't come around to you. So yeah, it's so disturbing to me that Vivica would even say something like that, right? Like, I'm good. Oh, you may be good for now. You know what I'm saying?
Vivica said, I'm good. Vivica said, that's y'all fight. Y'all look good together over there. I applaud that, but
like, wow. I'm over here. And that's the problem that we have as a race. We don't have that same notion and or thought process that in order to get things accomplished, we have to come together, right? We gotta stick together. And we don't do it. We don't do it.
It kind of felt like it came from a place of like trying to protect her own what she got going. I ain't about to mess my connections up for saying XYZ. That's where it kind of came from. Versus, I feel like you could have the greatest experience. This could not be your experience, but I feel like she could have said it differently. She could have, even if just saying like, like I stand by my sisters, like, or whatever, like I stand by y'all, like that's unfortunate, and keep on keeping on, or whatever. Like, I don't know, but the way the wording she used and the way she said it, it was kind of like that's y'all, this me, that's y'all problem.
And that's exactly what she meant. That's how she said it, just how she meant it. That's your problem, right? That's not mine. I'm good. Singular, right? I'm good. I'm not affected. It doesn't affect me and what I got going on. And I've never been a part of it. That's on y'all. That's y'all fight. I applaud y'all for fighting though, but that's y'all fight. Like, she said it how she meant it. That's she sugarcoated it. And she's known to be one of those, right, that speaks, that says what she means and means what she says. So definitely, that's how she meant it. It's unfortunate though. Yeah, but hey. Yeah.
Someone said Vivica has been in the business long enough to know how to give the best PR answer that would have been more supportive. She may have some background issue with Taraji or is protecting her interests. That could be true. That could be true. Without saying it could be something there.
But here's the thing. And like that individual said, like, she could have said something that was a bit more supportive, right? Even if you had an issue with Taraji is not solely speaking for herself. She's speaking for all the Black actresses coming up behind her as well, right? So even if you did, maybe, we don't know, if you do have a problem with Taraji or had one in the past of some sort, the answer just could have been a bit more supportive. It shouldn't have been that. It definitely shouldn't have been that, where you said, you good. I think that,
we ain't good, but she good.
Yeah, like, come on now.
And it's the way she said it too. If you
Right,
see the
with the
clip,
little,
it was like
with the little head
side eye,
shake.
like, I'm good.
It was like a little head shake, like, I'm good.
Like, how as Black people do and how we speak, and Black women in particular, how you speak with your eyes, and like you ain't even got to say nothing, just give that look. Like she said a lot more words just with that look alone.
Just with the look alone,
like,
and the little slight little movement.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
That was 10 more
like
sentences in that eye look. You know. Let's talk about the Book of Clarence. This movie just dropped this week, starring LaKeith Stanfied, and it was written and directed by a guy named James Samuel. Turns out he's not only a filmmaker, he's also a producer and a singer, and he also curated the soundtrack. He produced, I'm thinking, the whole thing. I'm not fully sure. He's also singing on there. It's a whole big situation over there. Fast shouts to James Samuel. But this movie is what I consider to be a unique take on what we know as the story of Jesus. And it's like part truth, and he also threw in some fiction in there as well, right? To make it original. So I was first wondering when I seen it, because Rell, you're the perfect person to have on today for this, because Rell is way more in tune and familiar with the word than I am. And so watching this, I had a lot of questions, and I would hit Rell like, yo, like, did that really happen? Did that really happen? Did that really happen? So let's talk about it. First things, we're not gonna try not to give away like too much spoilers, but if you know, right?
Right.
You say so. So many people being what's the word I'm looking for? Tortured or whatever. Were there that many messiahs that were abused and hung or whatever in the word?
Well, not messiahs, right? So in the Book of Clarence, they I call it poking fun at, kind of like people, they were arresting people, or they're looking for people who were claiming to be messiahs, right? But that was the main reason why Jesus, and let me start off with the disclaimer, I don't proclaim to be a biblical scholar of any sort, but I have, read the Bible, or some books in the Bible, not even all 66 books. And I 66. Do proclaim to have a relationship with Christ, right? So in this movie, they depict, which is poking fun to me, because I kind of found it hilarious. They were like, yeah, we're looking for all the messiahs. We want to gather up all the messiahs. And we can tell from the word, is what you said, that Jesus came, he was the second coming, he was the Messiah, but the Romans believed that he was false, like he was this false, he wasn't the second coming, he wasn't a Messiah. And so that was a crime. Basically, he was lying, he was going around, doing these miracles, performing these miracles and so forth. And they felt it was a lie and it was a mockery, right? So it was a crime. So in the movie, they had all these people, and these were criminals in essence, right? It wasn't just all messiahs or people pretending to be messiahs.
They were criminals.
They were criminals, correct.
Right. And in the movie, they made it like they were messiahs.
Messiahs, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or you were done? I thought you still had more.
Oh no, I thought you still had more. But no, the movie overall, like, I liked it. I liked that they kept the story, and everything that Jesus said in the word, in terms of like even the scene with the Mary Magdalene scene, where
Played by
the
Tiana
people
Taylor, by the way. Fresh
played by
her.
Tiana Taylor, correct. They were stoning her, right?
Right.
And they were stoning her because they said she was a whore. Well, she was brought before, you know, she was brought to the temple in the book, in the word. She was brought to the temple because, in essence, she was a whore or committed adultery of some sort, and she was brought there to be stoned, right?
Right.
And so Jesus comes to save her, and he says to the people, well, you know, who here is without sin? Because basically saying, you know, okay, you consider her being a whore to be a sin or an adulterer to be a sin, but then all of us, all of you, not him, but all of you are sinners. Everyone's a sinner. So who here is without sin? Let him or her cast the first stone. So be willing to cast the stone. Like, yeah, throw your stone. If you without sin, throw the stone, like stone her. But if you are with sin, you can't stone her because you just like her. You need to be stoned yourself, basically. So, you know, I like that they kept, you know, what was true in the movie. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
And another thing too that was in it that I found dope is the characters of who they show Jesus, reveal Jesus to be, is more accurate, right, to how he's described in the word. Because I was wondering how this white man came about, like who a lot of people have in their homes on pictures and stuff as Jesus, and they ended up showing someone that looked like that person in the movie. And so I was curious. I was like, so is that how that really like came about with the white Jesus? And then you told me that the actual description of it, you could expound more on that. The actual description of him in the Bible.
So, you know, I think that depiction of Jesus coming from our white counterparts, right? Because they're not going to present to us a Black savior, right? Because they're supreme. Their white race is supreme, right? So it would be a white savior for everyone, for the world, right? It wouldn't be a Black savior. However, in the word, the description of Jesus in the word would make you think that Jesus was Black, right? Because it talks about Jesus having hair of wool, you know, snow white. It talks about him having eyes fiery red, right? Like a fiery furnace. It talks about him having feet that are like brass, right? Like as if he walked through coal or on coal. And so all of these descriptions of Jesus wouldn't point you or wouldn't have you create a picture in your mind that it's a white man, right?
Especially not the hair of wool.
Hair, right.
We don't know any white people with hair of wool. Like
exactly. So our white counterparts are not going to present to us or the world as having a Black savior, right? Because we're inferior to them, right? And that's all that was. That's why this depiction of Jesus or this illustration of Jesus is of a white man with blue eyes, with long flowy hair, you know, the white savior of the world. That's where that comes from. Yeah. And so I'm glad that they poked fun at that. And, you know, it's acceptable, right? Everybody accepts it. So even in the movie, when they do see this person, right? This white
who looks
person,
like what we know,
who looks like we know of to be a Jesus, like, oh my gosh, like, you know, yeah, I don't want to tell.
And how they reacted to him, like
exactly.
You could say it.
How they react with such reverence, like, oh my gosh, yeah, like he's so pure, he's so old,
right.
He's Jesus, right. With he didn't even do anything, right? He didn't perform a miracle. He didn't. He didn't speak a word. Nothing. They just.
I mean, he had the coins because the other Messiah, Jesus of Nazareth, gave him that power.
Correct.
The coins or whatever,
abundance,
but
right,
of abundance.
Yeah, he had blessed them with some money. So yeah, that portion. So I like that they stayed true to what we know to be true in the word. They stayed true to his story, Jesus' story. You know, him being beat, you know, whipped, him bearing the cross, like walking with the cross.
Yep. With them fiery red eyes.
With the fiery red eyes. They saw that the only thing they didn't have was the thorn, a crown of thorns, which they placed on his head as well. They didn't have that, but they did have LaKeith walking with the cross, bearing the cross while being whipped, and still having to carry this cross to be then laid upon the cross and stakes driven through his hands and through his feet. They stayed true to that. They stayed true to him once he was uplifted on the cross, where he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." He spoke those words. That was true. That's also in the word. So I like that yes, they stay very true to everything that transpired with Jesus's death and resurrection in the movie. What I was really proud of, though, is that it also showed where, well, I guess that would be telling the movie. I really don't
say it.
Yeah, where this individual, right, that they captured that was supposed to be the Messiah, because this person was pretending to be the Messiah, right? So this really was a crime, right? And they arrested this person, and they, state this person as if this person was Jesus, and putting them to death. Like they pierced his side, they whipped him, they drove the stakes through his hands and through his feet, and yet this person was not really the Messiah. This was a person that took the place of Jesus. So in this movie, we don't see Jesus being crucified. We see a person laying down his life for Jesus, right? And that was so profound to me. Like, my God, like Jesus was sent. It was prophesied that he came to save the world, right? To lay down his life for the world. But yet this individual that they depicted in the movie laid down his life for Jesus. And I was like, wow. Like,
so that was one of the aspects that was the originality, the unique twist on
the unique twist on it. Exactly. Yeah, like that's the unique twist. Like, Jesus came and died for us, but in this movie we have someone who was willing to give his life for Jesus, because he had an experience with Jesus, right? He didn't come into it being a believer, but ultimately
absolutely he was the total opposite of a believer. He actually was like stead on, like he doesn't exist, like like,
exactly, like knowledge is better, knowledge is more powerful than belief, right? He stood on that, right? Knowledge is better than believing, right? So you got to have knowledge. And so he wasn't a believer initially. So for him to not be a believer and then have an experience with Jesus and then become a believer and then be crucified for believing and not willing to give up Jesus, right? That says something, right? So that twist on it alone had me like, I don't know, but I had shed a few tears up in the theater. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So yeah, it was just that touching. So yeah, that was profound to me. Like, yeah, like who do you know, even today, like in our society today, who would give up their life, right, for Jesus? Now, Jesus came and gave up his life for us, but who would give up their life for Jesus? That's the question.
And especially to have it be someone who originally didn't believe and came around. And like, so that part definitely was something. And I liked how even with him originally saying knowledge is more powerful than belief, it kind of had a full circle moment when he was asked to walk on water and was able to, and people like his brother was on some like how did you do that, like, and he was like, I thought you didn't believe, or no, he said it was God, and the brother was like, I thought you didn't believe. He was like, I don't believe, I know.
Yep.
And that comes right back to like, not the whole knowledge is more powerful than belief. I thought that was dope too. That
right, because at the end of the day, you can believe, but you got to still know that you know that you know.
You got to know.
So it's one thing to believe, but you still got to know what you believe, right? So, in essence, that's true, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah. It was dope.
Yeah, definitely dope. And it was over 2 hours long. Didn't feel like it. It didn't drag out.
It didn't.
That's when you know a movie is good, when it could be over 2 hours and you don't even realize it. Yeah, I thought it was dope.
Yeah, I thought it was dope too. I thought it was dope.
I'm trying to think of anything else in the movie that I wanted to talk about.
The
Any other
betrayal
aspects. Right. They did include the Judas aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They included Jesus of Nazareth knowing that Judas was going to betray him.
Correct.
And telling his disciples that they're going to come for me in 3 days. That's in the word too, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, they're going to come for me. I have to go because it's me fulfilling the prophecy. They're going to crucify me, in essence. That's basically what he was letting them know. So they're going to do these things to me. But don't worry, basically, don't worry, you know, because it is all in me fulfilling this prophecy. This is why I was sent here. I was sent here to do just this. So don't worry at the end of the day.
It was dope. It was definitely dope. It has some comedic moments in there as well. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else.
What else was interesting is the now that I think about it, is that Barabbas, how I pronounced it.
Oh, the guy who was immortal.
Who he, so that was the thing for me, right? Because the word doesn't depict him as being immortal, but however, he was someone who was in prison with Jesus when they arrested Jesus, right? The same as they arrested LaKeith, who was pretending to be the Messiah.
Right.
He was in prison with him. But in the movie, they choose Barabbas who's in prison to fight, right? LaKeith, who's pretending to be the Messiah, in order to be freed from prison. Because, you know, the disciples had told LaKeith that in order for him to be the 13th apostle, he needs to do something selfless, right? Like free the slaves. And so he goes where, you know, these gladiators are all slaves, you know, they're fighting one another. And so, but they are all slaves. So he goes to freedom. And so they say, oh, okay, well, you need to fight our best, which is Barabbas. And he goes to fight him. Barabbas says that he's immortal. But in the book, Barabbas is actually a murderer, right? And he is imprisoned. And when they arrest Jesus, and Jesus is in prison, the king didn't really want to arrest Jesus, right? However, he had to, right? He was under pressure to arrest him. So he says he doesn't want to he'll leave the choice up to the people. So he goes to the people and asks the people, who do they want released? And the people vote to release Barabbas, the murderer, instead of Jesus, right? So that was that difference. That was kind of like that parody for me, right? Where, you know, Barabbas says, I'm immortal in the movie. Like, he can't be killed. That was something that really, really was funny to me, right?
And still kind of incorporated some aspects of what's in the actual word, in terms of him being, I guess, him being a slave to that man, and is, I guess, the equivalent of being in prison, and the man choosing him to be free versus the people making a choice of the two or whatever. So I guess that was their way of like weaving that in. The part about the Achilles heel being, is that something that is actually like in the word, or did they just like use that because of the expression of the Achilles heel being
I think that was
area
more
of weakness,
vulnerable weakness. Spot. Correct.
Okay.
Right. I think that was more so of that, like our Achilles heel be an area of weakness for us as humans, right?
Because he was like, if you're gonna kill me, you gotta hit the Achilles or whatever.
Heel,
like,
right.
Yeah.
I can only be killed by my heel, so that's my only weakness, right?
Yeah.
As a human, right?
Yeah.
Even though he says he's immortal, right? So if you're immortal, how can your heel be your place to be the only place you can be killed, right? Or die?
And then he was like,
It-
wrong
it-
hit, wrong hill.
Wrong heel, right?
Y'all get that when y'all see it. It was about manifestation with LaKeith's character wanting to be like Jesus of Nazareth. And
Correct, right? That is so true. I didn't even think about that. That
him like
he's
I want to be like that right now, like, and I'm gonna be that. And ultimately, he was.
Yeah.
He was.
So
Someone
what
said
does that even leads us to be like mindful of our words and what we speak, right? And what we want. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Someone said, I like that they did not disrespect Jesus and his story, even with this fictionalized depiction.
So true.
True.
Yeah.
It involved race as well.
Yes.
In that aspect, and us coming together at times.
Yes.
Yeah, it was overall, I think it was very well put together. Fast shouts to James Samuel, who wrote and directed, LaKeith Stanfied, who I think is a dope actor. It's produced, Jay-Z was one of the producers on the film. This is the second film that Jay-Z was a part of in this team in terms of production. The Harder They Fall, which was on Netflix, was the first one. And now they have this one. Jesus quote in the film, that which is hidden from you will become clearer to you, for there is nothing hidden that won't manifest.
Which is true.
And I want to say, I like how, this could be the last thing before we move on though. I like how it wasn't like overly like religious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I feel like anyone, even if whether you believe, you don't believe, whatever, I feel like you can go see this movie and not feel like religion is like being forced on you or whatever. Like, I feel like you can get a understanding, a better understanding if you don't have one. And it's just, like we mentioned, a story on other things, not just like religion, like we mentioned, manifestation, the race aspect. It's just different aspects included in it that is not so like, it's not so religious. So I think anyone
there are issues
can
that
go see this and enjoy it, or just, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. There were, like you said, just as you said, there are many issues that are relevant today that are displayed in the movie itself, and so it's relatable on many levels, right? It's not just about the religious aspect. Truly, the soul of the movie, yes, it's about the story of Jesus, but out of that story are so many things that we are dealing with today. So yeah. And
someone said the Bible is the original book that speaks on law of attraction. It's all up in there.
Yeah, everything's in there. Yeah, everything's in there.
One thing I will say though, I'm tight at, I don't know if it's just AMC or if it's if this is all theaters. I feel like a movie like this, the way it was shot, the cinematography of it, I think was so dope. I feel like it should have been in a bigger theater. I feel like this belonged in like the IMAX or even the like Dolby theaters. If you're familiar with the AMC different theaters, they got Prime, Dolby. Like, I feel like it should have been in like a bigger theater so we could have really got into the art of it. Cause it was the way they shot it was so dope. It was like art. Like, and I felt like it should have been on a bigger screen. Like I don't know. And I don't know if this just because it's predominantly Black cast or if it's just the production of it or what goes on behind the scenes and who determines what theater it goes in. But I just feel like it was made to be on a bigger screen.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. But you know how these these major studios do when it comes to movies that are majority Black cast, right? They don't feel like we deserve that, right? We don't deserve the bigger screen because they don't feel like we draw the audience, right? And so that's what happens in the industry.
Yeah.
Again, dealing with race, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks. It's a mess, but yeah, that's what we deal with.
Someone said they didn't even have one poster at their theater except one small one. Studio didn't promote this right. Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, that's my only thing I gotta say. On the negative side, I feel like it should have been in a bigger thing. But if you didn't see it, if you plan to go see it, let this be your reason to go see it.
Go see it.
The Book of Samuel is in theaters now. Definitely go check it out.
Book of Clarence.
Book of Samuel. What am I saying?
That's Samuel's the book.
Name Samuel. Fat shouts to you. That was for you. The Book of Clarence. I said the Book of Samuel.
You got to go to Samuel and read about Samuel now.
Maybe that could be the next part.
Okay.
But yeah, we're gonna move on. The United States prosecutors are seeking the death penalty against a white supremacist Buffalo shooter. He's the guy who he was 18 at the time, and Payton Gendron is his name. He shot up a supermarket in Buffalo, and he was sentenced to life in prison. And now the prosecutors are looking to get the death penalty. And it was racially motivated. We already know. And yeah, death penalty. What do you think about this?
Well, yeah, while that was a sad time to have that happen in Buffalo, New York, I'm one who is against capital punishment. And that's, for me, that it's just like, well, you're doing the same thing, right? That's how I view it. I view it as, this is one of those things that's like an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So we're going to take your life, and that's still putting the power of taking someone's life in one's hand, right? So I'm giving you this ability to say, you're going to die at this time, you're going to die in this manner. And so I've never been a proponent of capital punishment. If anything, let them sit on death row or whatever for however long, or in prison for however long, and suffer in that way. Yeah, so putting them to death is not a good thing for me. Yeah, I feel like that's although we do know, like, when there are individuals who are on death row, they tend to be there for years and years and years. It's a long process, right, before that time even comes, before they're actually put to death. But so if they're going to be there for all that time before they put to death, then just leave them there. Like, there's not a need to even put them to death at the end of the day. And I do know this is not at all disregarding what they did, the lives that they took, right? But I guess it's because I serve a higher power. I feel like that is up to God, him and God, and his punishment will come from above. It won't come from man here on earth saying, hey, you're to be put to death. So that's my take on that.
So I feel like, and not for the reasons you just said, like I can't, I'm not saying that I'm against capital punishment. I will say though, in this case, I feel like the death penalty is like the easy way out. I feel like he needs to suffer. I feel like he should spend the rest of his life in a 5x5 box with no windows, no outside time. Give him 1 meal a day of the worst possible food imaginable, and let him like rot in prison. Is how I feel. I feel like the death penalty is just the easy way out. Like, it's just like he needs to sit and think about what he did. And like, even if that means losing his mind in the process, like, that's the punishment I feel is appropriate for what he did. Like, I don't know. I just feel like the death penalty is just the easy way. It's like, it's too easy. Like, one and done. Like, nah, that man needs to suffer.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It is an easy way out. Yeah, it definitely is. Like, so I'll go ahead and take your life.
Let me add, no visitations, no nothing. Like, he shouldn't have no privileges. Nobody coming to see you. None of that. None of that. 5x5 box with no blankets either.
Oh, no blankets either.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I agree with you. Yeah, definitely.
It's too
easy.
Quick and easy.
It's
like
get out of jail free card, right? Because you ain't there's no suffering being taken. And again, we do know it's not a speedy situation, right? It doesn't happen right away. So he is going to spend some time in prison. But I just want him to stay there, because if you're not going to kill him right away,
stay there.
You may as well just let him stay there and suffer. Yeah. You know, they got to go through all these appeals and all of this stuff. So he wound up being there years before he's even put to death. So it's like, so why are we going through that process then of putting him to death? And two, like you said, it's him getting off easy.
His attorneys is of course they're disappointed in the decision, but their reasoning, they said, rather than a prolonged and traumatic capital prosecution, the efforts of the federal government would be better spent on combating the forces that facilitated this terrible crime, including easy access to deadly weapons and the failure of social media companies to moderate the hateful rhetoric and images that circulate online. They got a point there too. I agree with them on that in terms of we need to combat preventing this from happening again.
Right? Yeah.
And what led up to it and what caused it and how he was able to carry this out.
Yeah, this is the issue that we're dealing with, these mass shootings. And my mother always used to say there's warning before destruction, right? And so, you know, with them stating keeping watch, right? We're supposed to have these watchdogs that watch everything. So social media platforms, things that are being posted, the rhetoric and stuff that's being posted, and getting a cap on these things to aid in the prevention of these situations from happening. That's where the focus definitely should be geared toward, instead of putting him to death.
The thing is too, because they do a good job at censoring what they want to censor, these social media apps, because it's the reason we got to write words like unalived or spaced out certain words that is not even on some like hate speech, but they quick to block out your comment or say this comment goes against our community standards. But you could go somewhere else, another page, and see something that's spewing out hateful rhetoric, and it's still just there and posted. So it's like the social media companies definitely got to do better across the board. Like, y'all censoring things that don't even need to be censored and letting other shit fly.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that. I heard that on because I'm, you know, of course, I'm not an avid social media individual,
Right.
So a lot of those things that I'm not privy to. But I heard on the radio, you know, the radio host was speaking about what you just mentioned in terms of certain words that you can't say and so forth, or they I guess they shut you off or they deactivate your account or something like that. And I was like, really? And like you mentioned, they can't say dead or they can't say death or something like that. And so you have to say
killed,
unalive.
or you gotta say unalive now. It's like,
yeah. So I was like, wow, really? That was
like, even right now on this, we probably gonna bleep out those words.
Oh, okay.
We just said. It's crazy. And they need to be bleeping out the real issues. Like, go somewhere else and really combat that. Take that stuff down. That's really that's really harmful, I should say. But yeah, that concludes what's hot in these blogs.